councillors to come in order for us to have a quorum, and then we'll proceed with the meeting. Hi. Welcome, Councillor Lee. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Take your position. There you go. I suspect he's getting his papers. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for coming, and councillors. We have a quorum. Just before we proceed, just with the membership, I have two apologies. One from Councillor Greco, who's on leave, and Councillor Villora, who apologises for this evening. She's got a family concern to attend to, so she's advised that she won't be attending. And Councillor Williams is on her way, but she will be a little bit late, she advises. So that's with the membership and apologies. Councillor?
Councillor McCarthy was running a bit later. Just had a
okay. Yep, thank you. Moving on to item 3, councillors, are there any disclosures or conflicts of interest?
No.
Thank you. Item 4, if I can have a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous planning meeting.
Happy to move. Second.
Move, Councillor Walsh, seconds. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And it's carried. Thank you very much. Now, before we move to the consideration of the reports, ladies and gentlemen, just let you know in terms of the process that we have, as each item is dealt with, we have an opportunity where we allow for 5 minutes for a speaker for the applicant and for the objector to speak. In the circumstance in which multiple speakers have been listed in either for or against, then the time is divided between the two speakers. And I notice, just in terms of the running sheet that I have here before me, that the first 2 items I have 2 objectors listed for each of them. So if in the circumstance you're able to have one speaker speak in relation to the objection, then the full 5 minutes is allotted. But if in the circumstance both of you wish to speak, then that's fine, but just the apportionment of time is equally distributed at 2.5 minutes. So without further ado, councillors, item 5, the first application is 5.1, 73 Ballantyne Street, Thornbury. Ms Mount.
Thank you. An application has been made to council to construct 6 double-storey dwellings on the site, arranged in tandem configuration on either side of central access way. Each dwelling will have 2 bedrooms and access to semi-covered car parking space. Private open space areas are to be provided in the form of balconies from between 11 square metres to 20 square metres in the area. Application of the proposal was given by placing a notice on site and letters in the mail to surrounding owners and occupiers. Council have received 15 objections to the giving of notice. The grounds of objections are summarised as overshadowing, impacts from construction work, overlooking, neighbourhood character, reduction in visitor car parking, insufficient car parking, overdevelopment, loss of significant trade, insufficient landscaping, excessive hard surfaces along the driveway, high gate and fence, property devaluation, noise, notice of the application not displayed for the period, 6 dwellings too many, high density development inappropriate, presentation of visual bulk to adjoining properties, stormwater runoff excessive, insufficient highway open space, access to car parking not convenient, waste removal issues, carports on boundaries affect daylight, shadow diagrams do not show overshadowing of windows, and a request that 2 metre high fencing on the western common boundary for noise abatement. In response to a number of the objections, the applicant applied to amend the application. Originally it was to waive a visitor's car parking space. The application was modified to remove that. And the application now fully complies with the requirements for car parking. The proposal being considered against Res Code and generally complies with all aspects, other than a few minor alterations that have been suggested to be addressed by conditions of by requirements of Condition 1. And the officer's recommendation is that the permit be supported and a notice of decision to grant a permit be issued.
All right, thank you very much. Just before we proceed, welcome, Councillor McCarthy. Do you have any conflicts of interest?
No conflicts.
Thank you very much.
I don't know, no.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Walsh. Yes. So we can tick those 2 off. As mentioned previously, ladies and gentlemen, now the opportunity comes for speakers in support and in objection to this particular application. Can I please invite Mr. Chris McKenzie to come forward on behalf of the applicant?
Thanks, councillors. The starting point for this application is the location and the context. About 150 metres east of St George's Road, where council policies are directing 3- and 4-storey apartments to be built, where all occupants will have their private open space by way of balconies. It's about 300 metres back to the train line, and then beyond that another few hundred metres to High Street. Again, the council supporting 3-, 4-, 5-storey apartments. Much denser living than what you're seeing in this type of location, but certainly an area where you're supporting significant intensification. This site lies in between and has general residential 2 zoning, which is your preferred townhouse zoning, unlike the general residential 1, where you are actively seeking courtyards of 55 square metres. The general residential 2 zone specifically contemplates either courtyards or balconies or rooftop open space as suitable outcomes. Your mapping of where you put these zones specifically looks at the location. This is a location that is very well connected to transport, very well connected to the High Street and St George's Road corridors, where you're trying to improve and enhance the existing activity centres, cafes, shops, employment. In short, this is precisely the type of area where you should be encouraging more consolidation so as to achieve your broader planning aims of protecting areas where you're trying to limit change. The proposal here is an 18-metre wide lot. Many of the lots in this street are 9 metres wide. So what you then have is a proposal with a structure around providing 2 dwellings in the street, effectively 2 rows of 3 with a central driveway. So the rhythm of this proposal reflects what you're already seeing in the street. The other thing you're seeing in the street that gives you some sense of the diversity that already exists, to give you more comfort about what we're proposing, is that diagonally opposite us and behind us, there are 2-storey walk-up flat buildings. So there are buildings in the street and around that are bigger, bulkier, and also providing more intense living than what we're proposing. And they've been there for 30 or 40 years. Part of the reason they are there is because back then, this site was also well located and seen as a good location to increase housing because it was walkable to all of those facilities that planning supports more intensity around. In terms of the actual layout, we have 6 two-storey reverse living dwellings. So the bedrooms are on the ground floor, the living room on the upper floor, all of the open spaces by a balcony. In a layout like this and on a site like this, that allows better access to the sun, better access to breezes, and the way our particular configuration is with our balconies through the centre of the site, it also avoids what is often seen as a negative outcome of reverse living, where we don't have balconies alongside any of our neighbours' open spaces. If you've seen the plans, 2 face the street, 2 are internal, but the angle of the balcony lets you look straight down the driveway back to the street, and the other 2 at the rear also have a layout where they don't look over the neighbours and they get an aspect back to the street, which is in the northerly direction. So it's a layout that is deliberately responding to site features and avoiding impacts onto neighbours that you sometimes see at reverse living. One other thing I'll point out to you is when we go to our rear, we do have some boundary walls. The neighbour to the rear has boundary wall all across our rear boundary. Our other neighbours also have sheds along the rear boundary. So while we do have an interface to neighbours, interfaces that already have built form all around the rear, overall, we have a proposal that is a maximum of 7.5 metres high, substantially less than the 9 metres contemplated for this zone, and a layout that has gone through the full assessment of your offices. When you look at your res code analysis, the only element that is required a condition, which has been included to alter a roof pitch, related to solar access to open space balconies.
You may wish to
complies.
You may wish to summarise, Mr.
At
McKenzie.
the very end, every element complies with what is code except a balcony, open space, solar component, which the condition requires a very minor change to the roof pitch. Ultimately, the recommendations for a fully compliant source you should support.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. McKenzie. If you may resume your position in the gallery. For this application, I have 2 speakers in objection. If I can please invite first off, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Ms. Rose Nectartal. Yes. If you may come forward, please.
Good evening, everyone. Look, I live diagonally opposite pretty much this proposed development. My biggest concern is parking. I mean, I'm all for, more development. However, I think it needs to be in keeping with our heritage buildings that we do have in the street. It's a large property they're going to demolish, and it's understandable that they would like to develop there. I'm sure it will bring a great income for both the council and the developer. However, I do think the parking is a big issue. I have brought a long photograph which indicates what the parking is like in the morning, which I took it this morning, and you can see that it's a bit hard to tell there for those of you far away, but if I can pass that around, if you want to have a look on that side of the street, there is no parks. There's no parks. That was taken at 6 o'clock this morning. There's no parks available. Many of the homes on that side of the street do not have parking spaces. It was built prior to when cars were around. New developments have since had car spaces allocated in some garages. I actually do have a driveway, but I do have 2 other people living with me who do drive as well. And it's, I've got a disabled mother, an elderly mother, and when she comes to visit for family functions, it's going to be, difficult for them to get a park. I think that's really my biggest issue. I'm big on the parking. I'm pretty disappointed about the trees that they pulled out prior to the application. I understand it's not a rule, however, I think it was against, I don't know, I just think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong to do that 3 days or a week after purchase of the property. They took the trees out. I just think they were old trees, they were over 50 years old, and one of them in particular, and I just think that's a good indicator of unfair practices, really, not keeping with the environment. Anyway, my biggest issue is parking, and I hope it's addressed. I do think that perhaps they should reduce the amount of units and provide more parking for the dwellers of the units and for their visitors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next, if I can please invite Mr. Brad Meadows to come forward. Right. Doesn't appear that Mr. Meadows is here with us. I take it that was pretty much the summary of the points, because I could invite you back to take up the additional portion of time, because the reason why I divided it was to give equal time between two objectors, but it appears that the other objector has not come before us. Yeah. Oh, right. Right, yep.
I live at 81 Valentine Street. Look, essentially our issue is the same around the parking. It's not so much the density as the previous gentleman pointed out. There are a number of blocks of flats in the street, and that's evidenced by the fact that the parking on the existing population is completely filled, and you often have to park in another street, which, that comes with inner city living. But essentially, if there's another 6 dwellings placed in, that will just further put pressure on other streets, because the street can't handle the population it's got at the moment, let alone any extra. One thing I just wanted to clarify, in the council papers, is it said that the waiving the visitors parking had been dropped. So I gather it's 1 car park for every 5 dwellings?
Yes.
So does that mean there will be 2 visitors car parks in this, given there are 6 dwellings?
No, well, perhaps I might defer to our officers to explain. Ms Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr Chair. The Res Code requires 1 per 5 dwellings, so if there's 6 dwellings, that's 1 visitor's car space, but you need to get to 10 dwellings before the second car space is required.
Yeah.
So it would only be 1.
So, there's going to be more than 1 visitor, so it will make a difficult situation even worse. So once again, it's not about the intensity of the dwellings, it's about the capacity of the area to manage all that car park.
All right, thank you very much, Ms Meadows. You may resume your position in the gallery. Councillors, questions at this point in time? Councillor Lee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on page 11 of the report, where it says residents will not be urged parking permits and so on, and they will have to adhere to on-street parking restrictions. Can I just get an idea of what currently exists for on-street parking restrictions in and around that area?
Mr Brown?
There's currently no restricted parking on Valentine Street.
Okay.
I can refer you to the page if that's assistance. So page 8, third last bullet point.
Right.
Yep. Supplementary?
Yes, please. The other question I have is really relating to secluded private open space. I noticed on the plan that this application relies predominantly on balconies as a form of secluded private open space. How does that sit in the context of a medium density development and our planning scheme?
Mr Chair, through you, there are a variety of different dwelling types in this area. There's a mixture of walk-up flats, and there's also the single dwellings on fairly narrow sites. So there's a variety of balconies and ground and private open space in that area. Res Code says you either have an amount of ground level open space or 8 square metres of balcony as a substitute for the open space. This proposed development complies and actually has in excess of those 8 square metre, ranges from nearly 11 square metre balconies through to a 20 square metre balcony. So in accordance with Res Code, this private open space provided here exceeds what's required.
No further questions, but I'll flag an alternate motion which have forwarded onto the...
All right. I have a question from Councillor McCarthy.
Just firstly, I suppose just a procedural question. I noticed in the Clause 55 summary table, we only have one N indicating no against the various clauses. However, looking at the detail of the report, quite a few of the clauses are compliant subject to clauses within the amendments that have been made. So I'm just wanting to understand, because this table seems to suggest that we are compliant with this proposal except for one point, which is the solar access. But yet the devil's in the detail here, and this really has had to be, I suppose, amended into compliance. So I suppose just procedurally, if I can just get some clarity here, because I'm just a bit unclear about why this is getting so many yeses when it seems to have a lot more noes in the detail. So if I can get an answer through you to our officers, Mr. Acting Mayor? Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Welcome back, I should say. Sorry.
Good to be back. Thank you. Ms. Bowles.
The general practice with this table is that if there's a condition that requires a height to be reduced or a setback to be increased so that it complies with that standard, we will fill in the table that it complies, because we're forcing it to comply with the condition. Now, whether this was in actual fact a slip that the officer has left the N, because there is a requirement to, in condition 1, to address skid and roof form and things like that to ensure that it complies. So my understanding for this is that it's probably a slip.
Okay, thank you. I just, if you don't read the detail, I think I'd make the point. You miss that we have had to condition this quite significantly on a few fronts, which Councillor Lee's questions already raised. I just wanted to get some clarity through you, Mr. Mayor, to our officers regarding the dealing with the solar access to open space, which is Clause 55.05-5. I'm getting the sense that even with the conditions imposed that we're still some distance from compliance. And I'm wanting to understand how that is justified, given that there could be further conditioning. Is there further conditioning that could be pursued to actually bring this into compliance, or is it just such a constrained site?
Apologise, I missed the very beginning of that.
Sorry.
I apologise for that. I was just...
That's right. So I'm wanting sure. So just in relation to Clause 55.05-5, B29, solar access to open space, I'm wanting to know whether there is further conditioning that could occur to this to actually bring it into compliance with Clause 55, because my reading of it at the moment is that it's still not compliant, that solar access is still insufficient in relation to Res Code, which seems to be a deficiency of the design. And I suppose the question is, if it was to be conditioned further, what does that do to the rest of the proposal?
Ms. Bowles?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that condition 1A requires alterations to be made to ensure that the solar access to the open space is complied with in accordance with Res Code, and that's why we've required that at that. And as I say, my understanding is it's a slip there that should have been a Y once that condition was put in.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, if there aren't any further questions...
Sorry, I do have one, and it was just an issue that one of the objectors raised regarding the removal of trees on site before the application. I'm wanting to understand, this is a concern, it seems, because if the trees, if I'm correct, the trees have been removed before the application has been submitted. Is that consistent with current practice? How are we to understand what the actual status quo is compared to what's being applied for? So why aren't we taking into account the removal of the trees more seriously as part of this?
Yes, Chair, we are actually, the way it stands at the moment is that there's no local law or planning policy that prohibits the removal of the trees, so that we're reliant on those trees being retained. But what we've done in this case here is we've included a condition that asks for an additional 2 trees, I believe, to be, provision of 2 medium conifer trees. Condition 4B, that is to counteract the removal of the trees that occurred prior to this application being lodged. And that's standard practice, that if things are, which are out of our control that we can't follow up on through fines or anything like that, we will require as conditions of any approval that they be replaced. Not necessarily exactly the same tree, but in an appropriate location within the landscape plan on that proposed site.
And so, just in relation to that, because we also have the a relocation of a nature strip tree in order to enable the crossover change, are we going to have the same net position in relation to the number of trees provided on site then, including the nature strip?
My understanding, through Mr. Chair, the small tree in the nature strip which is required to be relocated has been supported by our Darrell Parks and is subject to conditions, so that will be attended to and is in accordance with council requirements.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we do have a recommendation before us, and this, as foreshadowed by Councillor Lee, an alternative.
I'm happy to propose my alternative motion. Is there any further questions, Mr. Mayor?
We'll take yours now.
Application, and I'll pass the words to the officer. So that this application be refused on the following grounds. One, due to the unreasonable overshadowing, overlooking of adjoining properties. Two, the proposed development does not respect neighbourhood character. Three, the poor internal residential amenity due to all reverse living arrangements and over-reliance on balconies to provide bulk of the included private open space. And four, this is an overdevelopment due to the size and bulk of the design.
All right. Second that, please. Yep. Councillor McCarthy seconds. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Look, when you do look at this application, it does present itself to development. I'm the first to admit that, and it's on a generous lot, close to public transport and other amenities. So it does present a good opportunity. What we have before us, however, is a slight overreach, in my opinion. When you do look at the shadow diagrams that's provided to the attachment, you do see a fair degree of overshadowing to 52 Normanby Avenue, and I think that is predominantly because of the size and bulk of units 4 and 5 being a double story and having that skillion roof, which is not actually sympathetic to neighbourhood character, which is my second point. But more than that, what we have here is a design that's designed to maximise the yield, and that's evidenced by the fact that all the units are reverse living arrangements, and you know my rather distaste for those. However, that is not the only reason for rejection. What this design has achieved to do is that instead of providing adequate secluded private open space at the ground level, which you would expect neighbourhood character in that area would expect it to have, what this design response is doing is providing secluded private open space at the balcony, which is not consistent with neighbourhood character. So when you do look at all those bits and pieces together, you can see a picture forming, and that is a design that is designed for maximum yield, that is contrary to neighbourhood character, that presents itself as a bulky and domineering development on that site, and does not respect the neighbourhood character. So I think this design can be done a lot better. I'm certainly not against the second go at it, but I think this developed in its current form is unsupportable in my opinion.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Lee. Councillor McCarthy.
I'll reserve my rights in the interests of...
Okay. If there are no speakers in opposition, I propose to put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare the alternate motion carried. So, what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that the developer has, just refresh my memory if I can, I think 60 days. Sorry about being a bit squeaky. Rusty? Yes, here we are. 60 days as of this evening's decision to appeal at VCAT. So we'll see how that plays itself out. Thank you very much, councillors. We move next to item 5.2, which is in relation to 84 Miranda Road, Reservoir. Ms. Vance?
Application has been made to council at 84 Miranda Road, Reservoir. The proposal seeks to construct a medium density development comprising 3 two-storey dwellings, 2 three-bedroom dwellings and 1 two-bedroom dwelling. Private open space is provided at ground level for all dwellings, and 2 car parking spaces are provided for 2 three-bedroom dwellings and one a double garage in a double garage, and a single garage is provided for the two-bedroom dwelling. Notice of the application was given with a notice on site and mailing of notices to the surrounding owners and occupiers. Council received, some background on the proposed application is, in Council on the 1st of May 2014, considered an application for the construction of 5 double-storey dwellings. That application was refused. It was taken to VCAT, and VCAT affirmed Council's decision to refuse the development. This new application that has been put in is to reduce those dwellings down to 3. When notice of the proposal was given, 11 objections were received to the application. The objections are summarised as follows: impacts on car parking, traffic safety and increased noise, overdevelopment, overshadowing, overlooking, impact of amenity of open space, out of character with the neighbourhood and the streetscape, visual bulk, double-storey development, accessibility issues, impacts during construction, insufficient space for bins on the nature strip, insufficient garden areas, not consistent with the intentions of the proposed new zone pursuant to amendment C4.1, too many units in the street and an overdevelopment of the site. The proposed development was assessed against the requirements of Res Code, and it, in its current form, generally complies with those requirements. There are a handful of small conditions or minor conditions that ask for further landscaping, some treatments of the windows, and some other information. The proposed officer's recommendation is to support the application and issue a notice of decision to the major planning permit.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bowden. Now, again, if I can call Mr. Chris McKenzie on behalf of the applicant to come forward.
Thanks again, councillors. This is a site that I've been associated with since the earlier VCAT hearing that you were just told about. Some of the councillors may remember that VCAT decision because it was made the week after your new zones came into force, setting in place your general residential zone 1 with the 55 square metre open space, and the earlier plans that had been developed before that all came in place were refused by VCAT because of council's clear policy trying to steer this location away from reverse living designs. So the 5 dwellings previously have been refused. The direction clearly was to come back with 55 square metre yards, compliant on site coverage below 50%, and also to look at across the board compliance. Rather than looking at designing 4 dwellings that might meet those criteria, the applicant has come back to 3 family dwellings, seem to be more in keeping with the trajectory for this area that council has set. We have a front yard that is nearly 100 square metres, and then Unit 1 has another 46 square metres, so it effectively has the benefit of nearly 150 square metres of open space. And the 2 dwellings behind have 55 square metres in the courtyard area. So they are now all standard designs with they're living on the ground floor, substantially bigger yards, and when you go through council officers' res code assessment, this assessment has an absolutely clear tick based on the officer's proposal. The other thing you'll notice about the layout that has been said to you, there's 2 3-bedroom dwellings that are in front of the site, effectively taking up the same depth of the site as the house next door at number 82, and also coming back to the same point as the garage for number 86. So the 2 3-bedrooms effectively take up the area that sit alongside the existing houses each side. You then have quite a substantial gap on the first floor of 6.4 metres back to the 2-bedroom unit in the rear. So it's a substantially more modest and moderated proposal than the earlier one that was refused. The first floor elements are all through the centre of the site. You have large setbacks in excess of 4 metres all around. From the rear, it's 3.5 metres to the Unit 3 first floor. But as you can see on the plans, it's well centred. It's only 2 bedrooms wide up in that top area, 2 rooms wide. I apologise. So this is a proposal that's gone through Council's process, gone to VCAT, had the clear ruling made to endorse Council's approach to prefer larger dwellings with larger yards. We've come back. The rule or the practice is, as an applicant, we are supposed to directly respond and listen to what VCAT has said. We believe we've done that in a very clear way. We've not tried to cut corners or prove an advantage. We've gone from 5 to 3. They're family dwellings, and as I said, with a completely clear checklist. It's something we've worked through with council plans. There's been a few changes along the way to do compliance. Because we're coming here today wanting your support and believing this time around this proposal warrants that support.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. McKenzie. You may resume your position in the gallery. I have 2 speakers. Sorry. I have 2 speakers in objection to this application. If I can please invite Ms. Tina Kotsabas to come forward. I also have Mr. Kennedy Khoury, but as mentioned at the start of the meeting, because there are 2 speakers, they'll divide the time between each other 2.5 minutes each. Welcome.
Excuse myself a little bit, I'm unwell, but I've also got to be here. It's definitely a more modest plan than the 5 units. The 5 units were set up to look like 3 dwellings, so in fact it's similar for visual bulk. The VCAT did agree that having double-storey units would impose on the neighbours. Our backyard is our little haven. It's where our children play, it's where we entertain, we do have a small home. And the visual impact will impose on us greatly. Another issue I have is the square car park. It is, as you're probably aware, Miranda Road has had issues in the past. We have a resident, I think at 63 Miranda Road, who has multiple vehicles, and I know that the council's aware of it, and unfortunately hasn't been taking up a lot of the street parking. I think this development will impact street parking. Also, the 3rd unit has a sitting room, which to me and to my husband appears to be 3rd bedroom. It looks like a bedroom. And that way they get away with a single garage.
Yeah, just with the parking on the street, we put our garbage bins out on a Thursday night, and just about once a month our bin is not collected. We have to go to the council and say our bin wasn't collected because of the vehicles parked on the street. I do believe there is an issue with parking in the neighbourhood. Overdevelopment of the site, it's not in the street line that there are 3 double stories in the whole entire street except for the corner of the streets, corner blocks. The rest of them are 1 double and 2 single, which I think is fair development of the area. And the gentleman was saying that family homes, they're building family homes. These aren't really family homes, because family homes are a backyard for kids to play and grow. As we all are aware, the Australian children are given obese because there's no yards for them to play. And I've got 3 children of my own. There's a lot of kids in the street, and I'm just waiting for the day where a kid comes out off the footpath, not seeing the car coming down the street because there's parked cars everywhere, and being collected by a car. I don't want this to happen, and this is why I'm here today.
All right. Well, thank you to you both.
Thank you.
May you resume your positions in the gallery. I also have listed here Ms. Kennedy Coury. Right, okay. Thank you very much for your points there. Okay, councillors, questions? Councillor Lee.
Sorry, I do have a question in relation to Unit 3, the upstairs sitting room. Can any condition be placed on it so as to, in effect, prevent it from turning into a bedroom? I notice in the western elevation there's no window above it, so as to minimise the overlooking into the adjoining property, but that is still, to me, a potential for a bedroom to develop. If you look at level 2, diagram 2.
Mr. Chair, the notice in condition 1F says that the plans will be modified to show a notation confirming that first floor sitting room shall not be used as a bedroom.
Yep.
So we've included that within the requirements to ensure that that's not converted.
Councillor Lee?
Yes, but not to press a point, but that's not to prevent any future use of that room as a bedroom, does it? It's only for the development.
Mr. Chair, through you, the only other suggestion would be to include a standalone condition that said that that sitting room not be used as a third bedroom, and then enforcement could follow up if that's what was required to ensure that people did not use that room in the house for a third bedroom. I mean, it could be followed up the way it is at the moment with a condition because the plans would show that it's not to be used as a third bedroom. But another way of giving it a little bit more teeth is a standalone condition there.
So, just to help out Councillor Lee, could that come by way of an amendment to F?
As an
Okay.
As a condition 16 or something.
Councillor McCarthy.
I was just going to flag a request if such words could be provided to provide such a condition, if that's possible, because it does seem quite a specific condition that would have to be included if it was to get up.
I spy that Councillor Lee's.
But it sounds like Councillor Lee's on there. Yep. I actually just wanted to check procedurally how that would work in terms of the enforcement of that condition. Would that be reliant upon neighbours to inform council regarding a breach of the planning permit? What's the process for actually enforcement, and how realistic is it that that condition would actually be enforced in a meaningful way?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's a number of ways that council follows through with enforcement. That's proactive and reactive, and more often with the loads of work that's involved, it's reactive when people bring it to our attention, but another way is proactive. But generally it would be if someone brought it to our attention that it wasn't being used, or if it needed to be checked in case.
Okay. Councillor Lawrence?
Yes, just through you, Mr. Chair, to the officers. If council was to take the view that this sitting room is actually a bedroom, which I think is a reasonable conclusion, because it's not like studio rooms we see that sometimes have half walls and are clearly not designed to be bedrooms. It's basically effectively a bedroom without a door on it. If council came to view that it is a bedroom, what planning and what car parking changes would be required for the permit to be compliant?
Ms. Barr?
Mr. Chair, if it became a three-bedroom dwelling, it would need 2 car parking spaces, unless the application was considered waiving one of those and only providing one. The only other way would be to include, at the moment, condition 1F talks about the notation confirming that it not be used as a bedroom. In a number of other circumstances, we could put a requirement that their plans be amended to show one bedroom at that upper level, and the area identified as a sitting room reduced to a size that doesn't get used as a bedroom, or reduced completely.
All right. Well, if there aren't any further questions at this time, councillors, Councillor, you are foreshadowing to move that F be strengthened further than what is presented here?
I would, but before that, I just, after hearing just what the officer said, I'm just thinking in terms of the proposed amendment, what would be a reasonable amendment in light of the substantiveness of the change of each proposed amendment, if I can put it that way. So we have two, essentially, we have two alternatives. One is to...
Sorry to cut you off there, Councillor. I don't think we can actually answer that sort of question. But bearing in mind, of course, that our previous position has been that we are not in a position to amend plans that are presented. It's either you know, strengthening the provisions of existing conditions that are being presented before us, or an alternate motion to actually say that we do not wish to support it.
In this instance, I'm prepared to move an amendment to strengthen the existing conditions as a way forward, which is essentially adding the 16th point, which is that the upstairs living room for Unit 3 must not be used as the bedroom.
All right.
Words to that effect, depending on advice from our officers.
Seconder.
Could we just hear those exact, so the words again, just to get clear?
Yeah, that the upstairs living room for Unit 3 must not be used as a bedroom.
Now,
Mr. Chair, I would
yes.
suggest that you make reference to the sitting room, like use the same terminology, so the upstairs
sitting room.
Sitting room.
Sorry, upstairs sitting room.
Just
Yeah, it is not living room. My apologies. The upstairs. Sorry. So the words now reads that the upstairs sitting room for Unit 3 must not be used as a bedroom.
All right.
As an additional clause 16 to the condition.
Seconder. Councillor Fontana seconds. Councillor Lee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this does present a good way forward in that the applicant did seek to reduce the original application from 5 to 3, so it's a good way forward. My concern, and I have to say is my only substantial concern at this point in time, is that sitting room upstairs, level 3, Unit 3. Notwithstanding the fact it doesn't have western windows to overlooking adjoining properties, it does present a potential for that to be converted to a bedroom, hence my additional condition. If we were to delete that altogether, that would probably require a substantial amount of change to the actual design and probably triggered a refusal, which in the light of the application and the adherence to the Order Clause 55 probably is an unreasonable condition, whereas what I'm putting forward hopefully is a reasonable condition that others can accept and follow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Fontana.
Just briefly, I think we need to take note of the fact that VCAT actually made a ruling here that it would consider something substantially reduced, and this application has knocked off two dwellings. And also, VCAT wanted to consider a larger open space in relation to the backyards, the rear yards. The actual planning scheme, clause 55 summary, it's compliant in every aspect, so it's going to be very hard for us to actually argue this. Not supporting it. The site coverage being only 40%, 42, well below the expected requirements.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Fontana. Councillor Lyons.
I'll just speak in opposition to the amended motion. I think the applicant made the point that the two front units substantially present bulk equal to the properties next door. That's actually not the case. The two-storey bulk of the second unit extends 3 or 4 metres past the building line, well, in fact more, of one of the dwellings, so that's not correct. So I believe that we've still got a problem with neighbourhood character in regards to the garden character of this area, which is dominated by large back rear yards where people enjoy passive recreation. And notwithstanding it's come back from 5 units, of course, which is pleasing to see, The configuration of the third unit is problematic. Whatever you call that room, it is a bedroom. It has a doorway. All it needs is a door added to it. And it will be used as a bedroom because that's the economic reality of life when these things get rented out. So I think we fundamentally have a application here that breaches car parking because of the configuration of that unit. And again, the visual bulk and the overshadowing goes on to the passive recreation of the grounds. And again, that's not in keeping with the neighbourhood character of the area.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Lawrence. The mover wishes to exercise their right of reply.
Look, I hear the concerns raised by Councillor Lawrence. In fact, I'm prepared to withdraw my moving if Councillor Lawrence has an alternate set of motion.
Just,
No.
That's all right.
just in terms of procedure. Not too sure.
Through you, Mr. Chair, as the right of reply is being given, it would need to be put to the vote.
Okay. All right, because we've had speakers for and against in terms of mover and seconder. Fair enough. All right then. Well, I propose to put it as it's been amended and seconded. So all those in favour? Against? And it's been carried. Now, in this circumstance, objectors have 21 days as of tonight's decision to lodge their appeal at VCAT, but that concludes 5.2. So, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to 5.3, application at 55 David Street, Preston. Yes, ma'am. We'll just wait a moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Application's been made to Council at 55 David Street to construct a medium density housing development comprising 4 double-storey dwellings. The proposed development included reverse living typology dwellings with private open space in the form of balconies at the first floor, adjacent to the first floor living areas, and each dwelling has 1 on-site car parking space, and they're provided 2 double carports accessed from South Street. Notice of the application was given by public sign on site and letters in the mail, and 8 objections have been received to this proposed development. The objections are summarised as follows. The off-site amenity impacts include overlooking, overshadowing daylight and noise, site coverage and overdevelopment of the site, demolition of existing dwelling, private open space provision, neighbourhood character, impact on nearby heritage buildings, proposed development not family friendly, prevalence for 1 and 2 bedroom dwellings, car parking provision, crossover location and reduction of on-street parking supply, street setbacks, internal amenity matters, on-boundary construction, fire rating of walls, loss of daylight, absence of a front fence, loss of existing vegetation, impact on mental health and devaluation of neighbouring properties. The proposal has been assessed against the requirements of clause 55, and there was a number of items that don't comply. They've been highlighted in the officer's recommendation, which is to not support the proposal. Since this report was written and the agenda published, we have received an appeal against this proposal, so that if the Council was of the opinion to follow the officer's recommendation, it would be forming an opinion that the proposal is not supported when it's taken to VCAT, rather than forming an opinion to issue a notice of refusal.
Right. Okay.
So,
Thank you. with regards to this one, I don't have a speaker for the proposal at any rate. I have one objector. Can I please invite Miss Amelia Van den Eet? Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Amelia Van den Eet and I've lived next door at 53 David Street with my husband Anthony. We've shared our two children since 2001. And I'm speaking on behalf of my family, a number of residents in David and South Street, which are opposed to the planned overdevelopment of this site. We're well aware of the Council's support to ensure Darebin residents are protected from overdevelopment, and I note the proposed amendment C152 to raise protection for residential lots in Darebin. Unfortunately, even with that, I suppose the proposed amendment, if accepted, wouldn't give the highest level of protection to residents such as in David Street. So it's up to you as members of the Darebin Planning Committee to protect residents one application at a time. The proposed application is an absolute overdevelopment for this site. The proposed building footprint is too large on the site and will result in loss of open space and garden. The proposed coverage of the site breaches the current coverage standards as exceeds 60%, and only looking to reduce that further down to 50%. Under your policy, open space is defined at ground level, and this is not from balconies on the first floor. There's a glut of 1 and 2 bedroom properties that are planned reverse living, and they make a complete mockery out of the concept of open space. There is an adequate usable open space, and reverse living townhouses are created specifically to create more on one block to ensure larger profits for developers. This adversely affects the amenity of 53 David Street and other surrounding properties in David and South Street that we currently enjoy. This includes loss of privacy, increased noise, overshadowing and overlooking from the upper levels from windows, and the impact of the building along the boundary. Our block is a small block. It's about 11 metres across and about 24 metres deep, and it's the same size as the block at 55 David Street. The block is less than a third of the size of a typical quarter-acre block. In fact, it's closer to a quarter of a typical block size. The visual bulk from the build scale of the proposed development will be very imposing, as will from the surrounding properties in the street. And the type of development is out of character with the majority of houses in the street, and specifically the adjoining houses in David Street, which are California bungalow style. The majority of houses in David Street are weatherboard California bungalows, and it's heartening that a number of them are currently being restored to their former glory as comfortable family homes. And this is consistent with the majority of houses on South Street that have been restored. The proposal is inconsistent with neighbourhood character and would make it the most overdeveloped block in David Street. The development will result in loss of neighbourhood character and just contribute to the oversupply of 1 and 2 bedroom properties in the Darebin area. Specifically, the development will result in insufficient off-street parking. This will be exacerbated by more residents as there's only 1 park per unit, and it's significant on this site because of the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall directly across the road on the corner of David Street and South Street. And we have an influx of visitors from there and also from the nearby Mott Reserve, which is 3 doors down from the development. The additional driveway crossings along South Street will further reduce available car parking for streets and residents. And the actual development, the requirements under the parking location objectives are so tight, they should be 1.5 metres, but they're actually 1 metre. The proposal does not respect existing height and setbacks of neighbouring properties. They're not in line with the current precinct on the David Street frontage, the South Street frontage. All have shown scant regard for the current setbacks of this unique, the California bungalow precinct, for the sole purpose to overdevelop the site to install 4 apartments so tightly designed to be cramped planning. The setback on dwelling 1 doesn't comply with the standards. The proposed setback is 5.5 metres from dwelling 1, which is greater than the 7.3 metres required to comply with the standard. The balconies of dwelling 1 and 2 overlook adjacent gardens and open space. The balconies will look straight into our front yard and straight across the road into our neighbour Lena's children's bedroom windows. Increased overshadowing to 53 David Street will be greater than we have with the house there currently, as the development will be taller and cover a large area of the site. It will adversely affect the amount of light we receive in the west windows of our property, especially in winter in our son's bedroom and our living room and kitchen window. It will also have a negative effect on the growth of vegetation along our west boundary. The boundary wall of the proposed development is over 3 metres high. Under standard B19, clause 55.4, walls or carports more than 3 metres in height opposite an existing habitable room should be set back from the window at least 50% of the height of the new wall.
Ms Van Veen, you might want to summarise your points.
So in a nutshell, the other parts are increased noise level is a real concern. No front fencing is an issue and not consistent with the only house on the street without a fence. We need the side and front setback from the property, ensure there's a setback against the windows, across from windows, ensure the development has adequate open space and doesn't exceed 50% footprint.
Thank you very much for your time. You can please resume your position in the gallery. Councillor Montana.
The recommendation to make.
Yes. Seconded by Councillor Walsh. I propose to put it. All those in favour? Against? Okay. Fair enough.
Just a point of order. I believe the wording would need to be that we form a view not to support. It's not the recommendation itself that we need to move, I believe, because of the VCAT hearing.
Yep.
So just perhaps we'll take up with
I think you need to move a actual motion again, Mr Acting Mayor, because we've voted
Mr Mayor.
incorrect. Mr Mayor, sorry.
As much as I've got to say.
And thank you for your time there, Councillor Walsh. So, is there an alternative?
Just before, I've got a question. Before
Yes. You might want to ask the question in terms of the form of words, perhaps. Ms Lawrence?
Well, yeah, 2 questions then. Would a form of words be appropriate that council form the view that planning permit application D/55/215 fails to comply with the state and local planning schemes on the following grounds, and then the grounds?
Mr Chair, in the past, the recommendations that have come up when we've known there's been a failure lodged, we'd simply put that the recommendation be fairly similar, that the opinion be formed that application D, blah, 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 not be supported.
Not be supported, okay.
Not be supported on the following grounds.
Yep, okay, fine. Now, just a quick follow-up question. I noticed the grounds cited in this recommendation rely heavily on clause 55. These other points that were raised about heights near adjoining habitable rooms and the front and the side setbacks, they're all within those clauses, or there it's in clause 55.3.10.
Mr Chair, 55.04 talks about side and rear setbacks.
What about the issue of the garage near a habitable room?
Well, Mr Chair, in fact, the carports don't have a wall on the boundary, but the dwellings do have a wall on the boundary, and I think that will be covered in the side and rear setbacks, but I will just check.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm just trying to make sure the things that have been raised are what we're looking at. As grounds.
Just a point of order, if I may, Mr Mayor. We need to move a motion that is in the spirit of what the officers have said, which is to form a view, given this is out of our hands. So,
cannot be supported.
If I'm just correct in understanding, Councillor Lawrence is seeking to get the words.
That's right.
To strengthen that position, but can we just get a clarity, just so the gallery is aware, that the previous motion actually doesn't stand because we're not in a position to make a decision on this right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that that's what Councillor Lawrence is trying to do now, so we can get the right form of words.
Yep. Thank you.
55.043, I think one of the other concerns, Mr Chair, through is daylight to existing windows. And it says here the ground floor wall of dwelling one does not comply with the standard.
Yep. Okay.
So 55.041.
Am I moving this?
You might need to include that one if you wish to talk specifically.
55.04.
55.04-3.
So.
Because I can't see that 55.04-3 listed in the concurrent refusal number 2.
And that's called?
Daylight to existing windows.
Daylight to existing windows. So I'm moving an amended motion, which is fundamentally the conditions as listed here, with the addition of clause 55.04-3, daylight to existing windows, which would sit underneath the clause on side and rear setbacks there. And the front sentence would, the starting sentence would be amended to that council form the view that planning permit application D/55/215 not be supported on the following grounds.
Okay. Happy to second that.
Councillor Lawrence, I've just been advised, planning committee instead of council.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yes.
That the planning committee, yes. That the planning committee.
So, Councillor McCarthy, you're the seconder? Thank you very much. Councillor Lawrence.
I think this has all been covered, obviously, by the officer's report and the presentation, quite detailed presentation from residents. And I think we've got a comprehensive list of grounds that we can be confident to take the VCAT.
All right. Well, I propose to put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Now, this one here, in terms of the timing, Ms. Smout, you might want to advise, just for the benefit of the gallery. So, in this circumstance, where are we at in terms of it being given a hearing at VCAT?
Through Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the appeal was lodged only recently, and we wait dates for VCAT miles and months and months anyway, so I couldn't give you a date or a time, but I just know the waiting period, and it's not a major case or anything that drags it quicker. So many months I would assume before any dates.
So to the extent that those people who had initially joined as objectors, through our council's list, VCAT would notify them?
That's correct.
Okay.
That as soon as a flag is lodged, then objectors that were party to the application, VCAT would be required to correspond with to find out if they wish to be parties to the appeal and to be included in that VCAT hearing.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome, Councillor Williams. Before we start with the next item, do you have any conflicts of interest to declare?
No conflicts of interest, Mr Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Moving right along to the last item that we have, 5.4, 9 Hoskins Street. Smout.
Mr Chair, application has been made at 9 Hoskins Street Reservoir to construct a medium density housing development which comprises 4 double-storey dwellings. 2 dwellings have 3 bedrooms with access to 2 on-site car spaces, while the other 2 dwellings have 2 bedrooms with 1 on-site car space each. Private open spaces to be provided in the form of ground level yards. Notice was given of the proposal with a sign on site and letters to the surrounding owners and occupiers. 5 objections were received against this application, and then, Mr Chair, the application that was originally lodged for the 5 dwellings, 4 double-storey and 1 single-storey with a waiver of 1 visitor's car space, has since been amended, and it was to amend it to that 4 dwellings that were proposed, which removed the requirement for the visitor's car space as a result of the concerns raised by neighbours. The amended application was advertised to the surrounding properties and to all objectors, and received 3 additional objections, all from the existing, the original objectors to the proposal. The grounds of objection can be summarised as follows. Neighbourhood character, overlooking loss of privacy, building height or sizing inappropriate, decreased pedestrian safety, lack of available on-street parking, traffic congestion, car parking noise, overdevelopment, overshadowing, loss of views, inconvenience to adjoining houses during construction, inappropriate aesthetics of medium density housing developments, noise pollution, devaluation, overcrowding and lack of landscaping. The application has been assessed against the Res Code requirements and is generally complies with all of those requirements, and it's noted in the recommendation to support it and issue a notice of decision that in fact there's only a handful of condition 1 requirements that talk only about more minor details rather than changes to the proposed layout so that's the officer's recommendation is to support the proposal and issue a notice of decision to grant.
All right, thank you very much. Again, if I can please call Mr. McKenzie to come forward on behalf of the applicant.
Thanks once again, 3 times in one night, a rare treat.
You're very busy.
It's generally very busy, yes. Tonight in particular. I think you've just heard that the original application for this proposal was put in for 5 dwellings and also sort of waiting resident parking, and that went out to public notice and received a number of objections, particularly as is somewhat common, raising concerns about parking and general traffic conditions in and around the suburb and the street. The application was then formally amended and, as was noted, re-advertised back to the objectors to reduce the proposal from 5 dwellings to 4 dwellings, so that it now delivers full compliance for parking and is not seeking any waiver. I suppose of some minor interest, the objections are essentially concentrated from the 6-unit development on the east of our site at number 5 Hoskin Street. This is a street that already has units on our immediate boundary. We have a couple of dual occupancies opposite, and you'll see on the plan our back neighbour is unit 3/8 Thursday Street, so we have units behind us as well. So we're not a pristine single dwelling area. Certainly there's a mix. There are single dwellings, including our neighbour at number 11, but also there are units, and it happens to be that the interest in this proposal has largely come from our neighbouring unit owners and occupiers, not from single dwelling owners in and around the area. What we've got is a 919 square metre lot, which is quite a large suburban lot. We now have 4 dwellings at 44% site coverage and more than 36% permeable garden area. So on both of those measures, it's very much exceeding the benchmarks of Res Code. You'll see that units 1 and 2 towards the front of the site have 3 bedrooms and a TV room, and they have double car parking provision. Units 3 and 4 at the rear have 2 bedrooms and a TV room. You'll see that the TV room for unit 3 is sort of a walk-through area, and you'll see that perhaps slightly different, or slightly different to the application I was just dealing with. You'll see the unit 4 TV room at the rear is much more open, sort of as a study, and not really designed in a way that would be walled off. It's also significantly smaller than a standard bedroom in terms of its dimension. It's clearly structured in terms of the entire application to provide that facility for an upstairs breakout space as a secondary living, not intended to run the risk of being seen as an additional bedroom. You'll also see when you look at the plans as the site goes back that the first floors become progressively smaller, so when you get to unit 4 at the rear, there's a significant recession off the back boundary. It's significantly recessed on each side, and you can compare it to the ground floor roof. It's quite a modest section up top. There's essentially just the bedroom plus the open TV area at the top of the stairs. So when you go to the council officer's assessment, we've got again a design that's been worked through with formal amendments made in consultation with the council officers to resolve initial queries, leading to an absolutely clean Res Code assessment of everything fully compliant. You'll see in terms of our neighbours, we have the driveway alongside the units at number 5. We have 3 courtyard open spaces alongside our open single-storey neighbours' rear yard, so that we're maximising our landscaping along that more sensitive interface. And when you go to the first floors, as I've said, they get smaller as you go back. It is separated between units 2 and units 3 and units 4 and off the back boundary, so as to not present an unbroken, bulky first floor form. This is a proposal that's being worked up and refined in consultation with the officers, leading to their recommendation for approval with an absolutely clean assessment. I commend that to you and ask you to approve it.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms Mackenzie. If you may wish to resume your position in the gallery. I have one speaker in objection. If I can please call Mr Stephen Zammit to come forward.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm the owner of Unit 6. It's at 57 Austin Street. Whilst I've got living there, I've got a renter in there. In terms of where the development is, it started out at 4 and it's come down to started out at 5 and it's come down to 4 units. I guess in terms of the overall neighbourhood character and the size of the blocks in that street, there's no doubt that as time goes on, people move on, developers will come in and will seek to develop that site. So in keeping with, I guess, the neighbourhood character, I am not opposed to development, but I would seek that the development would be consistent with the 3 townhouses, similar to the development that I'm actually in, similar to across the road. From that perspective, I guess from the council's point of view, just understanding in terms of the neighbourhood character, in terms of parking, open private space, understanding it does meet the West Coast, but I guess from the point of view of understanding what the street will look like in maybe 5 years, without a doubt it will actually be developed. So this is hopefully setting a precedent going forward for any future developers looking to buy residential in that area and develop it. So my suggestion is that the development be reviewed and at least in accordance to what is next door and what is across the road, the number of dwellings to 3.
Right, thank you very much for your time there, Mr Zammit. If you may resume your position in the gallery as well. Councillors, any questions in regards to this application, please? If not, we do have a recommendation before us, unless there's an alternative being considered. Councillor Fontana moves. Seconded by Councillor Walsh. Councillor Fontana.
Well, clause 55 of the compliance summary indicates that it doesn't meet all the requirements, conditions, and it has been reduced from its initial proposal. But I will take a point from the objective that it will need to be a little bit more content of what's going to be considered in the trade industry, but at this stage it does comply. It's going to be very hard to sort of argue any case against it in the future.
All right, Councillor Walsh.
Yes, I would have said similar things to what Councillor Fontana said, so I'll, in the interest of time.
All right. Are there any speakers in opposition? If not, then I propose to put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against, carried. So, again, with regards to this application being supported by the Council, the objector has 21 days as of tonight's decision in order to appeal to VCAT with regards to this application. Well, councillors, that completes item 5. We are now up to item 6. Moved by Councillor Fontana, seconded by Councillor Williams. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And now 6.1, 2 and 3 on block. Moved Councillor Fontana, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Being closed. Much better.